Welcome everybody to this session on CCAM in logistics, and where we want to discuss and reflect upon whether we are ready to do business. Whether this is just a futuristic, please enter. I'll give you a moment to. Sorry for this this interruption or delay. It was due to a last-minute change of rooms, so it's a logistical challenge, and we don't have automated logistics yet at the EUCAD. So, but we are flexible, so this will work. Welcome to this session. As I said, dealing with CCAM in logistics. Is this just a futuristic reality 10 years ahead, or are we already now ready to do business within selected area? That's the main topic today. My name is Ragnhild Wahl. I am working at ITS Norway as a director for research and innovation, and on a daily basis I am also coordinating the MODI project. We have 4 speakers. Yeah, no, I can take this first. We have carried out a lot of EU funded projects dealing with automation in transport, not that many in logistics. So that's why we want to focus on logistics today. We have the transition from confined areas to public roads, from, for instance, the... Oh, please. I'm sorry. I try to let people sit down first. Yes, we had projects dealing with confined areas, projects like Award, with very short distances, and then we have this project I am coordinating, the MODI project, dealing with the longer distances, the cross-border transport, and the transition from the confined area to the public roads. So that's one transition. We want to learn from those who has worked within the confined areas to the public ones, and also how can we link these together to make this business opportunity for logistics in general. And to discuss this, we have a panel of 4 persons, and I can see that this is not the latest version, but I hope there are not many more changes. No? Okay, sorry for that. Then I didn't put your credentials in this slide. It was supposed to be there, but okay. This is how it is. First, Richard van Cleef. I don't know if that's van Cleef. Yeah, Dutch. I'm Norwegian. I am not that good in Dutch, but close enough, I hope. Richard is the general manager at the DFDS in the ferry division. And he has been working at DFDS since 2004, the first years as a terminal worker, but the last 7 years as this in this manager position. He's responsible for the terminal in Vlaardingen. Something. I tried in Rotterdam. I tried to exercise previously, but it wasn't that easy. But yeah, so that's Richard on a daily basis, and he will bring aspects to the discussion on as a logistic operator, and perspectives on automation and experiences from demo project in semi-confined areas, project like Award, and also the MODI project. And then we have Xenia Duarte from EX9. That's pretty close. And she is the bold and visionary founding and CEO of EX9. This is a deep tech French startup which revolutionizing logistics yards with automated mobility solutions. And she will bring an industry startup perspective into the discussion, bringing experience and perspectives from demos in real condition at terminals and perspectives on innovation in logistics in general. Then we had Ted Sotus, and he is the manager for R&I, Research and Innovation, at the International Road Transport Union, ERU, where he works with decarbonization of road freight transport industry, automation, and digitalization. And Ted will bring perspectives on demos on public roads in projects like CFS, Altena, and Award, working with conditions and knowledge sharing. And finally, we have Mats Rosenqvist from the Volvo Group Department for Innovation and Ecosystem and Partnership, where he works as a specialist leader public projects. And Mats will bring an OEM perspective into this discussion. And he has also participated in numerous numbers of EU projects like Ensemble, CFS, and also MODI. So with that, I think I can leave not the floor, but the word to the panelists. And let's start with, no, this doesn't work. Where to point? Could you change? Yeah, once more. Yeah, this is the day with all the technicalities not on our side, but anyway, please, Richard, give us a short pitch of why are you here and why is this an interesting and important topic for you?
Thank you for the introduction. As you can see on the screen, I decided to take one slide with no text, because on this slide you can see the beautiful terminal in Vlaardingen, but we call it from now on Rotterdam. This is my kingdom. This is my toy store, so to say. I can play a little. I can do whatever I like on this terminal. You can be efficient. We can be strategic, but we did the award project last year on this terminal, and with the award project there were 3 objectives. That was driving to the gate from a public road to an autonomous procedure, and then the second thing was shunting from A to B on the terminal, and object number 3 was driving on and off the vessel with a trailer. I was there involved with this project. It took quite some years. It was sometimes, it was extended because of COVID. But we did have some challenges. But we managed to get to the project and the objectives. And I would like to share you some findings during today's session.
Thank you. Continuing with Xenia. Yeah, of course. I forgot. Yeah, she was. It was. Very. Oh, I have to put someone. No, she's here. Oh, yeah. That's probably better. Oh, it works. Yeah.
Hello, and first, very nice to see you all, and thank you for welcoming us. I'm Xenia, CEO and co-founder of EX9. We transform logistic operations with autonomous vehicles. We started to make a first very POC case with DHL in France, moving trailers with like this small AGV. The case was like pretty interesting. In yards, you have sometimes less than 100 meters to move trailers from parking to dock. And that's definitely a very harsh and routine job. And today, yard operators are very struggling to hire people to do this job. That's why automation looks like perfect perfect position, perfect purpose here. So we integrate first our technology in this AGV, and with DHL we confirm somehow the interest to such technologies, and they request us let's say to move forward to a step more industrial, and I guess we will speak a lot about that, how make it at scale, and that's about industrialization. And that's why we integrate our technologies into existing cabin version, because like in terms of V-cycle, and I guess Matt will also confirm my sayings, is that the V-cycle is long, so we started to deploy with existing cabin version, on the top of which we integrate our technologies of autonomous. And that's more than only the vehicle moving stuff from point A to point B. That's also how to integrate it into daily operations.
Thank you. And then let's move on to Ted, and let's see. Is it me or you clicking now? It's you. Okay, and I can just do this. Here you go, Ted.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. The Zetos, I'm working at the International Road Transport Union. I'm not having a port terminal or vehicles to operate, but we represent the transport operators at the global level. At ARU, we are working on three current, I will use the word from earlier's plenary, disruptions, which is decarbonization. The operators will need to renew their fleets with zero-emission ones in the next coming years. Driver shortages, which is one of the main, if not the main, enabler that can make automation in logistics a very viable business case. We see that drivers are retiring at a much quicker pace than younger ones are recruited. So that's costing in growth in companies, in trade in Europe, and with demographics, this is gonna even only go worse. And also digitalization, and to automate road transport in the long haul, we will need to not have paper documents in the cabin, and that's, I think, goes hand in hand with the purpose of this meeting. Just to put a few data in the discussion, 17% of the drivers will retire in the next 2 or 3 years. I didn't write it down. And 745,000 drivers will be needed in 2020 by 2028. 3 million globally. So we can see that definitely there is some business case and some necessity and some merits for action, which are very happily accepted by the plenary before. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mats.
Yeah, Mats Rosenqvist, I'm from the Volvo Group. I had some slides, but should you? Oh, okay. I mean, we everything we do kind of with safety is always first. But I also would like to say that today we provide, of course, vehicles for the global market. They use the same type of platform in Europe. Adapting, adding more driving assisting service. We are aware of that there will be a lack of drivers, but then you also need to retain the drivers and attract more drivers, improving the situation for freight transport today. It's a hard work, really, so you can do more in this area. But in parallel with this, we are also working together with some of the customer domains, like mining and quarry, confined areas operation where it's possible to introduce, and we also run commercial pilots in this area, actually with driverless trucks in 24/7 operation. But we also learned that this kind of pilot, it takes long time. You need to build the trust with not only with the customer, but the operator, but also authorities. There are also authorities for confined areas, actually. There are working authorities. There are a lot of legislation that needs to be. Port and logistics, of course, this is another very important sector where we are engaged. And also, finally, the hub-to-hub highway. Maybe you have seen some announcement from what we're doing in Texas, but I will not look into that. Next slide to show a little more. I mean, of course, I think we need to build on. That's why we are here, working with European research projects. Of course, we need to build on the legacy and the learnings, the result from previous projects, but ongoing. So more highlight a few high drive project where we actually, this is a big platform initiative where Volvo is also one of the partners. We need to live together in the open world with car, trucks talking to each other. The FAME project, we have contributed to that there is a section in this the common evaluation methodology about freight and logistics. I think it's important to highlight that is also taken into consideration in the common evaluation methodology. We have the MODIA project, of course, where we are really working with these different cross-border and freight, and we work together with DFD as one of the logistics players here, very important. And then also mention the Ensemble project, which was actually quite, even if the result could be better, but we have a good cross-collaboration with all truck OEMs in Europe. And I think that was a very strong statement to show that we can work together and we can do tests on public roads, but also highlight a few of the issues, but the need for collaboration and common tests. And of course, towards what you probably also saw from the presentation about the large-scale demonstration activities, where we need to put everything together to really show the result. So I think that's, my short pitch.
Thank you, Mats. And I think your last comment on we have to work together, and we are looking forward to the next phase of large-scale demos, where we definitely need to follow up on that, and that will be a discussion for the last part of this session. But first, let's dig into the main topic, and that's how can innovative CCAM services benefit from future logistic operations and freight transport. We are working on the technology part. That's interesting, and we are technology optimists, all of us, I think, in the audience. But why bother? What can we gain in logistics from CCAM innovation? Let's start with Richard. How is this from a ferry operator perspective?
From an end user perspective, especially for our terminal in Rotterdam, we experience a number of challenges. Just to give you some insight, on a daily basis, we have 4 sailings to the UK from Rotterdam. Those are very short, quick turnarounds, so we need to unload and load vessels in 3.5 hours time. We work in shifts, so that gives us a number of challenges that you can see that the new generation of people don't want to work in shifts anymore. Night shifts, they don't like them. 5 working days, they prefer 4. So that makes it quite difficult for a terminal in the harbor port to organize your roster, your sailing schedule. So that's one of the challenges. Another thing of the challenges is the physical aspect. We have the landing legs, for example. You need to wind in. So there's a lot of physical interaction. So there could be at the long end of your career some some problems with the elbows or with the shoulders, causing a high absenteeism and causing indirect high cost for the employer. And also what I've mentioned before is the shortage of drivers for the future. In the beginning, it's all exciting and fun, but on some point, labor costs are quite high salaries. So at some point, they are used to a certain lifestyle, but they know the trick of loading and unloading vessels. So then it doesn't feels after a certain amount of years, it isn't exciting anymore. They know what to do, they know how it works, and then they seeking for a new challenge, which is difficult because it still is the same ship. When you purchase a ship, a vessel, a ro-ro vessel, then it's for the next 20, 30 years you operate a vessel. So the only change of a day shift is that you work on a different deck. And not the activity itself. So that's are the number of challenges.
Yeah, thank you. Let's move on to Ted on the road transport, and you're not on the ferries, of course. But why is CCAM important for you and for your members?
Just to remind
Ted,
you,
yeah.
Just in case we forgot, we have a slide.
Yeah, after.
Right? Is it after? Okay.
I don't.
Let's not lose the input. So CCAM is first of all important because of safety. I think it can prove, maybe not tomorrow, but in a mid-term that is much safer than the human error. I think all of us have been distracted for a second while driving. I think CCAM cannot do that, or promises that it cannot do it. That's the very first advantage. Efficiency, and when we talk about efficiency, we don't talk only about eco-driving that the CCAM can provide, higher usability of the track, doesn't need to get any rest for the night, we don't need truck parking areas, we will need charging though, which is another issue with anyway we have. Sustainability reasons, smoother driving, no useless kilometers like driving to go for the end of the shift or something. But I will come back to what I was saying before, and I think also we already experienced some level of CCAM, and we see ADAS becoming more and more in our daily life, in the cars, in the trucks, lane keeping assistance, it was mentioned before. And we see the importance of those. Like if you are used to drive with lane keeping assistance, it's difficult to get rid of it and drive without. I can support that 100%.
I can tell I have a rental car.
Sorry?
I can tell I have a rental car up here. It's impossible to find out where to find the functions, and you're totally lost without them. So
definitely. So that's my points, more or less. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Before we move on to Xenia and Mats, we would launch a Slido session. So if you could do this one, yes. Leave it here for a few seconds for you to scan the code, and here we have a question we want you to respond to, and you could also prepare if you have any questions. So we will open up for interaction with the audience after we heard reflections from Mats and Xenia. So I still see some scanning. Yes, then I think you can switch to the question. So here is which services are ready for deployment, and now we are on the short term, and and we will come back to that later on, because much of what we are talking about today is not the short-term topics, but more the visions for the driverless future. Moving on to Mats, while you are responding to the Slido. Will the ongoing introduction of zero-emission vehicle, and in particular battery electric trucks in logistic operation, will that be an opportunity also for CCAM for logistics?
Yeah, I think what I mean with that, we see this more introduction of zero-emission vehicles, battery electric trucks. Suddenly, the vehicle are depending on the infrastructure much more than just filling up more diesel. And I think this is kind of one step towards, in CCAM, you need to work more in a collaboration. It's less than you fill up the truck, you drive to the destination, you offload. Here, you actually need to interact with other vehicles, but also the infrastructure and the operators in a more online manner. And I think this is the challenge or the opportunity in CCAM, where it's less of a happening, it's more of a coordination effort in order to make the transport, to do the transport in the future. So which means that this demands collaboration. We need to agree on common standards, the way how to do things, and the way how not to do things in order to make sure it's getting more productivity out of the system, more efficiency out of the system. So I think this is, that's what I mean with also working with electrification, because this is actually one step towards this, with the vehicle is kind of part of the system. I mean, in the 2.0 partnership, we're discussing also vehicle to grid, smart charging. You have actually trucks standing over the weekend. The truck outside, he has 500 kilowatt hour of battery in one truck. And then you have a fleet of trucks, maybe a couple of, I mean, then it's a lot of power or energy storage that stands there without, and of course, you know, and this a logistics company, they run the business. They are looking for profit. How can we earn money from this asset? The vehicle is an asset. Of course, how can we build on that? So I think the thinking in the logistics sector is different from the private car user. The vehicle is an asset. It's an investment that the operator do. And then, of course, how can we earn more money from this investment? So, of course, and driver is a cost, but also vehicle is a cost. So you need to look into the whole picture here. So I think that's the big, when it comes to logistics, everything is about money, I would say. It's a kind of productivity and lower the cost.
And time.
And time, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Then, Xenia, you have quite different daily operations than the rest of the panel. So, what do you think are the main struggles or pain points for scaling automation technology?
Look, let's say what we come from autonomous driving world, like purely technology. So how to put sensors together, how to make the right decisions, being safe, just on time, and so. But when we started to do first POCs, we understood that it's much more than just moving things with one very heavy autonomous truck. That's also how to do operations, how being perfectly integrated in operations. But that means also infrastructure, because it should be autonomous, not only in moving, it should be also like charged automatically somehow. It should be coupled to trails automatically, but it should be also dispatched, controlled from the control room perfectly automatically. Let's say somebody has just to say to the vehicle, go there, pick up this trailer, put it to the dock, and when it's done, just say, okay, I'm ready for the next one. And this is much more than only movements. That's all. That's working with, let's say, a logistic operator to apprehend or to better understand the process and how this new technology will do the job finally, just taking care of, I know where to go, I know which trailer pick up, when, if purely safely move it, right? Like distinguishing all environment, people, and in cohabitation with other vehicles, and being performant enough because we're looking for efficiency. Let's say somehow automation brings this doing more with less. That's what we are looking to do, like reducing costs and doing more movements. And yeah, finally, it's like being purely integrated in terms of many technologies, which brings together connectivity is a part of, like being also related and controlled from control room, just like for monitoring and for the dispatch. That's also being connected and also like in cybersecurity way protected, because I mean that's very heavy stuff, right? So if any accident could happen, that means probably I mean big big issue here. So that's why all these kind of different technologies and a lot of partners we have to align. It's not only piece of like one of hardware or one of software. It's like working all together to make it happen and finally do the job that people do today, even they don't like it. And there's a lot of safety issues to trailers, to dogs, to definitely to people also. And also this problem of hiring people, of absenteeism, and any kind of safety issue in damages. So yeah, it's like align a lot of different jobs and technologies to make it happen all together.
And the endless number of pain points.
Somehow, yes.
Yeah, we did some study in the Modi project on what is a driver and what is actually the tasks for the driver, and the movement of the vehicle is just a tiny part of it. Okay, oh no, it's a tiny, but it's just part of it, and that's also the picture you are painting. It's a lot of other activities, and all of you bring different perspective in a quite complex area. Any comments before moving on to the Slido results from your side?
Yeah, the complexity is also about support. It was mentioned this morning about support from the people, the civilians, like so to say, because this morning in the room, everybody, there were a lot of smart people this morning in one room, and they're all completely convinced that autonomous is the solution for the future. And I partly agree. But the only thing that's missing is support. And that was also the problem on the terminal in Rotterdam, that when the terminal truck was delivered, before the terminal truck, the autonomous truck was delivered, I had meetings with Works Council representatives from the union, and I said, this is coming, this is now in development. I did a presentation about what we are about to do some testing and the possible consequences for the future, and they started laughing at me. And I said, okay, fine, but you're now informed. Don't get angry with me when the truck is being delivered onto terminal and you see that thing driving, because we have we have about 100 terminal workers on the contract. I can imagine that if you see something passing by that can replace you, that can give you a certain negative emotion, to put it lightly. So they started driving on the truck. We started driving on the terminal from A to B, the shunting part, and that was quite okay. Of course, it was very slow. It was 6 kilometers per hour. We have quick turnarounds, 3.5 hours. That means that 6 kilometers per hour is not loading and unloading the vessels we operate. So people were laughing in the canteen behind the window. But then it started driving on the vessel. And then people start becoming awake and say, oh, wait a minute, this is not the purpose of what I had in mind. So that's again the complexity. How do you deal with that? When we talk about technology, we talk about all those different objectives we need to execute, but the people factor is a little bit not as highlighted as much. That makes it quite difficult to discuss sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I know that in the US there are the unions are so strong that for some areas it's just not for discussion. Automation is out of the equation because it's very heavy unions.
No, but I totally understand the EVS is in all over Europe, different terminals, different representatives, different cultures, but the bottom line is that we just wanted to be transparent. We didn't want to hide anything and just be clear about it, that this is an upcoming development for the future. Of course, we are not ready at the moment because our vessels are not developed for autonomous driving. The terminals are not developed for autonomous driving. We have people and machines going. They were mixed. Yeah, that gave not accidents but incidents about external drivers. They didn't know how to act. Luckily, there was a safety driver inside the autonomous truck that were waving outside the window that he could pass. But there are so different factors. But that's what we are asking ourselves, that if we buy a terminal tomorrow, how should we then develop that terminal? Should we develop then on people, on driving skills, or should we base it on autonomous traffic? And that's a question. And if we say yes to autonomous traffic, then you need to think about investments, about the electrification of machines. Can we take electrification, the microgrid? Can we take so much machines on electric? In the Netherlands, it's quite complicated at the moment, the microgrid. So yeah, that was just one of the findings from the project that came up.
Yeah, and of course it's not just about removing the driver one-to-one. It's also about new working processes, and you need new kind of positions. But let's come back to that. Let's first get some updates from the Slido. Should I come? Yes, the question was which CCAM services are the most advanced and ready for deployment? And here I have results like remove trucks from heavy congested routes by automated transport in the night. That's another way of doing the same activity. Highways, autonomous platooning, CITS.
There is a lot of optimism.
Yeah. It's not.
And some realism. There is a lot of optimism and some realism.
A lot of optimism, yeah. I don't think I see any of these. Like, yes, here we can do business tomorrow. Any comments? Yeah, Mats?
Yeah, I think it's so important to work together with an operator like a port or that but also do work over time. It's not a quick fix that you just deploy a service and it's there. It's way more complicated. It takes time. You need to understand what are the issues, where are the benefits, what are the opportunities for, and also for the drivers. You need to kind of convince or maybe really show them, great, because then I could do other things. You need to work together. And we work with this limestone facility up in northern Norway. It took 7 years until we actually could remove the safety drivers. As you see, you need to really understand the operational issues, but also work together with the stakeholders, with the drivers, with the operators, all the questions, how do you maintain, how do you do the maintenance? Where are because in a limestone you have this kind of clogging of sensors. Try to run a nice, clean LiDAR configuration in a limestone. and you will realize that you need to have a cleaning device that really take care of this. And I assume also in a ferry operation, how do you handle when you bump into other? I mean, there are incidents happening, and never happens. So I think just what I would like to say is that's the important to really understand that are we solving the right service. So the service here, it's not. That's also why we are looking for in the coming large-scale demo to have an operating over a year. You need to see what about Christmas, what about vacation period, what about Black Friday, all of these issues. How do you handle winter, summer, rain, thunderstorm that you have this night? This cannot stop logistics, because then you come up to the to the supermarket and there are no milk. So we need to make sure we can always do the delivery. So that is kind of a comment.
That makes the business case also quite difficult. But with people, you're 24/7. With autonomous traffic, it may be difficult. You need to charge the machines. If you charge a machine, one is nothing, so you need to purchase two. So that's again an investment. So, and also about ready for deployment, we noticed that during the award project, we were very focused on the vessel operations, because that's what the money. That's sorry. That's what. That's a little bit flat. That's what brings the money in. It's all about the money. No, the vessel operations, that's what the customer is paying for, and yard operations was not highlighted as much. And with yard operations, we have now understand that it's quite the same importance as vessel operations, because with yard operations you can do a lot of preparations before a vessel arrives or departs. So we also have now made a change in mindset within the BFDS. At least with me, I did a change of mindset. If you compare to the Richard of 3 years ago, you talked about yard operation. Yeah, like a yard operation that costs energy and it doesn't make me any money. What makes me money is loading a trailer and unloading a trailer. But with yard operations, if you can clear the yard before a vessel arrives and you can do a quick discharge, then the customer might be triggered, because the sooner his trailer is available, the sooner he can deliver, which saving again fuel or cost or waiting costs for his driver, and working more efficient that way. So that was an eye opener for our side as the deployment we are working on now at the moment.
Yeah, I would like to add also something. Let's say when we started to propose autonomous as experimentation, we naively thought that each yard operators were equipped with yard MS, like IT solution just to manage the yard operations. But that's definitely not the case. And that now what we call automation readiness level, and that's a kind of gradual adoption into this automation of operations, because finally sometimes we are very, very far from automation, still need to be digitalized, think about like how make it more disciplined, how to make it more organized and supervised or monitored, and then we can speak about automation. So let's say, yes, bigger customers or big operators have already this discipline or this way of managing, but that's not the case for everybody. That's why it's also about like how the 3PL or ports are ready to jump into automation. And just like to complete what you were saying, Richard, the fact is like, yes, need to charge vehicles, but that's not about autonomy as automation as movement, but that's also electrification. So it's also a part of new technology and technology adoption. So we are like kind of arriving from everywhere saying, okay, we need to be more efficient. We need to be decarbonized. We need to be more safe. And that's a lot of technologies coming together, and probably a day that will be fully automation. But what we, in our perspective, how we see things is when you start your operation, you build brand new warehouse, it's easy to say, okay, it's better to do this like that, put like charging station here and organize the circulation like that. But that's not the case today, right? So we have somehow to work together also to, it's not like provider of technology and buyer of technologies. We work together just to make it happen together as a gradual adoption. Otherwise, they will never work. If like, okay, it's a plug and play, that will take a lot of time because before it arrives, really, it's still a collaborative.
A lot of the topics you have reflected upon is also just as much about digitalization as automation. So it goes hand in hand. So we have still a lot to do on that part as well. But let's launch the next Slido question. And that brings us back to a little earlier in the debate. Just did you switch slide? There, yes. We have already mentioned the driver shortage. So, what do you think could be a contribution for avoiding or delaying that shortage? We know it cannot be fully avoided, but it might be delayed until we do have an alternative solution at hand. So while you are thinking about that, I would like you, Ted, to reflect a little more upon what do you foresee the coming years. You were a little into it in your introduction, but still.
Yeah, I used my data points in the introduction, so I'm not going to mention anything like that, but I think we should improve the conditions. I think we should focus on the pain points, on these legs of the transport that consume the more time, that make the driver sleep far from home, and gradually try to see where the biggest gains are. The driver shortage is here. There are many ways to solve it. We need younger drivers, which can come with more technology in the vehicle, better conditions, better parking areas, I don't know, infotainment, potentially, just thinking out loud. But also by keeping the drivers that are in the workforce active and engaged and interested. That's one point. Automation is not going to come in a day. As was said, it's a learning process. We are at this maybe toddler phase. That
And when did you say the shortage was critical? Next year, yeah. So, I mean, kind of yesterday, yeah.
We have to find ways to adapt to the situation and to find ways. There is third country drivers that can be employed as a situation, but then you have the third countries advancing, growing, and you cannot just take resources from other countries. So this is not a long-term win. And I think for many job positions, we see that people don't want to do repetitive tasks. Richard elaborated on the matter, and that can be further discovered. But definitely automation and the journey towards automation could be something that the driver aspect needs to be involved, needs to be engaged, upskilled, reskilled, all these buzzwords that we're listening every day. And mitigated as much as possible.
No, I'm curious. Did you get any good answers from the audience? large-scale point-to-point distribution, keep current drivers happy in their jobs. Okay. Yes to that. Any suggestions how to do that? So we could discuss. We could also discuss, but definitely an important point. Change the model. Long distance with the train, boat, and airplane. Short and medium distance driver and AV vehicles. Allow automation on part of the journey so that the drivers can focus on the difficult ODD. This will increase the runtime for each vehicle.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
That's a good point. That's
a good point.
A personal good one.
And that's also one of the discussions we do have in Modi.
And I missed a main point. Women are only, I don't remember, 6% of the workforce, even less, 2 or 3% in the long haul. And this is a very big priority as well, which could cover some of the driver shortages.
Yeah, I think it's important to have this. Do not have this one-size-fits-all approach. Shouldn't be, well, it doesn't have to be the same kind of vehicle for all kind of operations. It doesn't need to be driverless everywhere. So the suggestions on which part of the logistic chain should be automated and which not, I think that's a very critical discussion to run. I'm not sure how much time we actually have left in this session because we started 15-20 minutes late. So looking up here, I guess we do have that extra 15 minutes. We try. Until we be kicked out, we try. We continue. Thank you. Yes, let's move on to a topic I know that many of you are very eager to discuss during these days in ISPRA, and that is the upcoming call on large-scale demonstrations. If we could launch the next slide or question. This could run in the background. What would be the most important aspect to demonstrate? That will, of course, be the answer to all the applications for proposal for this call. But still, share your thoughts on that. But from the audience side, and from the panel side, I introduced that this should be a knowledge exchange, experience exchange session. And Richard, you have already shared a lot of the award experience. How do you take those experience onto Modi? Do you see them as two interlinked projects, or is it standalones?
No, there are some links. Mainly about the efficiency. I think that was a huge benefit. We saw during the project, of course, the standard downsides. That was the air hoses of connecting the trailer. Connecting the trailer was not a problem. Driving with the trailer was not a problem. So the developers are quite on their way. So I was quite positive. I had a positive feeling after the conclusion of the project after those 3 weeks. Also with driving from the public road through the gate process, the public road, that was locally quite a challenge because my own government didn't know how to handle that, to have an autonomous truck on the public road. They said, why don't you do that locally? So I had some traffic marshals enclosing the road and we did some testing. But it wasn't, we were quite on a discovery mode doing that. And in the end result is that we're not there yet, but because of all those external factors, because in Rotterdam we also have water tides. So when we were driving onto the vessel, The ramp was driving down, and the truck stopped because it was thinking it was driving onto a wall, but it was low tide. All those factors was quite funny to experience. But at the end of the road, it was the shunting that was the most promising. So if there's a solution for the air hoses, because with shunting you don't have to deal with the landing legs, but you can be far more efficient in your vessel operations. So that's why we are focusing now with the shunting, and to see if we can have some benefit there. So on the background, please keep on developing with all those smart people about how we can do the autonomous truck on a confined area, especially with the vessels we operate. And then in the meantime, we will further explore the shunting.
Yeah.
If I can add, we will do a demo day 17th of June in France, in Cambrai. It's E-Valley Logistics Summit. So if Richard, you want to come to see how we do this autonomous shunting, like very welcome, and all of you.
Thank you for that
We might
invite.
have some business here, right?
Mats, you have participated in quite many European projects. How can we engage the logistic operators in this project? Or do we succeed in doing that? Or do we need?
I think, my experience is that the people working, they're very pragmatic. They're very here and now. You need to really show that you are into this for a longer period of time. So it's not yet another research project. It's actually something that will remain and a result that will remain. So I think in the current project in Modi, for example, where we have identified a few use cases, or what we call sub-use cases, I think we should continue with that, but maybe extend the number of the operational time. It takes time to build the trust between the community, to have the local engagement until you actually get them to open up and explain what the real issue are. Because you don't get that in a first workshop or a second workshop or in a
project.
No, but we realize some practical issues. Entering into the port of the FDS or in the harbor. In order to enter the port, you need to identify yourself as a driver. How do you do that as an autonomous vehicle? And you need to hand over a paper document describing what you carry, what load you are carrying. Well, it's of course there is a lot of paper still in the logistics business, which is even if the EFTI will come, but it's so there are, and then we fight against a lot of regulation. You drive a long truck in Sweden, you move over to Denmark, and then to Germany, you need to have 2 trucks because you cannot drive this long truck in Germany. You have the border crossing. So there are many of these kind of. So of course, this is for European initiatives important to highlight what is important for Europe. So the cross-border is super important for long distance, but then maybe you don't do level 4. It would be fantastic to do it from Rotterdam to Oslo, but I think we need to be realistic to see how can we improve the situation today. To include lower level of automation in order to learn what is ongoing.
So the shippers, and you refer to Modi, of course we do, but the shippers are not a part of Modi. Do we use, what did we use?
The shippers are setting the scene. They are paying for transport. So so of course they are important to engage, but then we need to have the right level of engagement with the logistics. You need to understand the level of kind of commanding this business, who is providing what.
So we need the logistics, we need the shippers. What about the customers, Xenia?
I would just add something that we have not spoken about it a lot until now, but that's also about the business case, because any kind of technology will not exist only for technology, right? That will exist because first it responds to a pain point, but that's because also it's economically viable. If the technology is too much expensive, nobody will just buy it, right? So our first job that we do when we meet people from 3PL, from shippers also, how the business case could be viable. If it is 24/7 with many yacht tractors, that's definitely more viable, let's say. If it is like only 4 days a week with only two shifts, it will be very difficult. Even if it's still like interesting case to make it autonomous, in business perspective, it will still be very tricky to reach a day, or probably like in 5 or 7 years, reach a break-even point or kind of payback, right? So that means that will make the decision making also much more longer or difficult to get to the point. From the other perspective, yes, this is true. Somehow, if we need, we talk to some customers, they have 50 yacht tractors working at the same time. Yes, it's a bit tricky for the technology just to replace everything, saying they like we put all these diesel yacht tractors with 3 shifts people aside and we'll just make autonomous. Yeah, definitely that will not happen neither from the technology perspective of view, from perspective from the operational liability and so on, and also like making it just operationally viable once again. So let's say scalable, it's also how we arrive to make it economically viable from both sides. One is the part of technology provider, service provider, vehicle provider, definitely, but that's also from the perspective of customer, because if we do more with less, that's good. If we provide something that's more expensive than what they handle today, who will buy, right? So let's say it's here again, we do collaborative work. We work a lot on like this kind of ROI modeling, just to be sure that a day we'll together reach this this payback or ROI break even. Otherwise, that will just spend a lot of money. And hopefully these EU projects will support to deploy and to test and to upgrade the technologies. But that's also very important to start with use cases where we see that will be like interesting for both sides today.
Thank you. Then let's see what the next large-scale demos will consist of. It's use cases that make transport of goods really safer and more sustainable. It's more important that the use cases will be to demonstrate that they can be operated in existing traffic and logistic environments with all real-life stakeholders involved. Its public acceptance and continued use as an alternative to private car ownership. Here's a link to a YouTube video. I cannot take that on the spot. Yeah, middle mile delivery. Have the final goal in mind and start small with partners that are willing and able to scale. Last mile deliveries, hub to hub, confined area automation, hub to hub again, etc., etc. It's a lot of those topics we expect to be among the many applications. Is it next year, next spring, or when it will be? Not any revolutionary, but it's with highlighting various parts of the complexity. Ted, before we round up, where should CCAM demonstrations focus in the next decade from your perspective? And do you agree with the common set and targets, as was mentioned this morning by by Nino Romano?
Yes, I agree. We have to set some targets.
That's a good start.
We have to set some ambitious targets as Europe. We have to look at the competition. We have to understand why Volvo is doing tests with Aurora in the US and not in Europe. There is a reason behind that. To be innovative, but to have a mindset, an innovative mindset, together with authorities and whoever would be willing to get CCAM a step forward. And I really think we should, as we have worked on technology, we have worked on social acceptance in the last few years in this working program, really need to see some results, everything together with an ambitious target of, I don't know, 1,000 vehicles in general. That would be amazing, but I think that it will take more than one funding series. But definitely, yeah, we could also focus on the big operational gains. Where is the operational efficiency going to be improved? And try to create long-term relationships with partners during this journey.
Yeah, I think both you and Mats mentioned the scale. Thousands of vehicles, yeah, it would be lovely where to find them. And then you have the Mats mentioned the investment and the risk there, and you also discussed that at the RTR conference in February. How can also the OEMs make those investments when everything is pretty unclear with the regulation not in place either? So the scale is, of course, the number of vehicles, but it's also, as Mats mentioned, the time running, and it's the number of use cases involved, etc., etc. So large scale could be many different, have many different flavors. But I do think we need to round up the session. I would like each one of you to give a very short, and I mean short, closing remark. Are we ready to do business? Start with you, Richard. Key takeaways.
Are we ready to do business? No, not yet. It's very difficult from an end user perspective to build a business case, as long as the driver is still in the truck, but also because of all the manual procedures that needs to be done. But still, we do see some future in it, but not at the moment.
I think the progress is coming from the warehouses and how robotized the warehouses are already, and this will get out to the streets. So I see it as a trend coming. So we are doing business already in the OEMs with ADAS, some closed restricted areas, but we have to do more. That's my two words.
Of course, we are always ready to do business. So I mean that's why I'm here. We will pay. I mean, but at the same time, when we have ADAS or level 2 vehicles connectivity, that's something we need to make sure it's being used and implemented. And of course, we are also doing business. I mean, the project we do in Norway, for example, it's not a research project. This is deployment. This is business. So we are ready, but we need to restrict the complexity, work with the extended OBD. If you talk CCAM language. Nobody outside this room understands really, or if you talk this language. But yeah, but expanding the ODD and increasing the complexity slowly.
I will agree with Mats. Just one sentence on this. There is a chaos. You speak to different people in operations. They cannot understand what CCAM is or how this can evolve because it's a new world. It's a real disruption. So we have to also try to communicate ourselves to when we do projects, when we do business, when we do whatever dissemination, how they are going to get value out of it.
Look, we provide autonomous yard operations as a service, and we will be definitely happy to be challenged within your conditions to see if we are capable to deploy or not, but we're definitely ready to make some use cases already as a business.
Thank you. Turned off. I will end as I started. The technology is here. We are still has still a lot of testing to do and demonstrations to run before everything runs smoothly. But we need a reason. We need to make the use cases useful. So we just automate for its for the fun of it, but we need to find the business models. So with that in mind, I thank you all for reflections and the rest of you for listening in. Okay. Thank you.